Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, March 31st. Your LA Galaxy winless in league, winless in the month of March. Just lost at lost to Orlando at home, 2-1. Controversy, bad plays, head-scratching result for a team that looked like they had their first win pretty much in the bag there for the first 65, 70 minutes. And now, their reward, they get to play Tigres on Tuesday night. Tomorrow night, as we are recording here on Monday night. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to get to. We are glad that you are here joining us today to help us do all that. We're glad to have him back. It's Kevin, the Panda Baxter. Kev, how you doing, bud?
All right, trying to fix the microphone here. Is that working?
You got it.
Testing.
You did
all
it.
Right. Hey, I want to start off with, this is I don't know if it's a quiz or it's like one of the 8 wonders of the world. You can't figure this out. Okay? So if you sit in the back of your car, your Tesla, Lamborghini, whatever you're rolling in these days, and you sit in the back seat in the middle and reach your arms out, right? You can touch or almost touch both sides of the car, right? The windows
Right.
on both sides.
Yes.
But if you're in a bus and you're standing in the middle of the bus, you can't come anywhere close.
Right.
Yet the bus and the car both fit in the same lane.
I mean, is it the buses are just wider than the cars, Kevin? This isn't that hard. The lane is a certain... but barely. Have you driven a big truck or a bus? Just the whole thing? I don't think that one's going to fly. I don't think that's one of the major head scratchers. That's not one of those things that...
Me. And by the way, this is for this shirt to be a goldfish. Everybody knows what that means. This is for John McCarthy.
Yeah, be a goldfish.
Buddy, be a goldfish.
Be a goldfish, indeed.
Goldfish.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't... Let me put it this way. The Galaxy ruined a perfectly fine Saturday evening for me. And the reason I say that is that I was fortunate enough to meet a whole bunch of people. I went out walking. I went on a walkabout before the game. Got to see a whole bunch of people. I had jerseys to deliver. I had things to do. I got to say hi to people. I stopped. I saw Scott, who's in our chat room. Shout out to Scott. Always nice to meet him. I swear I've met him before. He looks familiar, but I guess I'm just used to seeing him here in the chat room. Let's see, who else did I saw a bunch of people on the concourse. I met people's parents. I went and talked to the family who just lost their wife that we talked about on the last podcast. So I got to talk to them a little bit, their mom and wife. And so it was good to see them. I know they're going through a tough time, but it was nice to check in. I gave a jersey to someone here in the chat room, and Luis got me this amazing thing. Can everybody see this? I just want to show like this awesomeness. Maybe I'll go to the one camera here. But look at this, Kevin. This is
the
mine.
The one camera. This makes me feel like I'm like on ESPN or something.
Yeah, well, there's the main cam and then there's the alternate really bad camera, which is the one you're on. So, but anyway,
deservedly so.
Luis made me this, and it has blue lights around it, and it's got these wonderful wood lights, and I love it. And Luis, I'm gonna find it somewhere we're gonna find a spot for it in the back there somewhere. I just want everybody to see it up close because I didn't want anybody to miss it. I also should point out another gift that I got given because it was LA Galaxy equipment sale day, right? And one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Mr. Provino, who's in our chat room, got me something that I'm not even sure I can share with everybody. It's not... I don't X-rated. Know. It's not X-rated. He bought it from the equipment sale, but it's one. Listen, I'm gonna go back to the one camera over my shoulder. You can't really see it, But there, I got another plaque that was on somebody's door, Kevin. You know, I have the Farai Mutatu locker tag behind me that Matt gave me.
Yeah, there it is. I see that.
Yep, and then there's one right above there. Now, what could have me dying laughing getting a Galaxy person's plaque? Think the opposite of something that I would ever want. Think the furthest part. Who would I definitely not want their name tag?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of people you hate.
There's a lot of people who hate me, but think who's top of the list of people who we don't get along.
Carlo Cudicini?
No, that would have been good. Carlo Cudicini and I did. No, much longer.
Omar.
No, not Omar. Omar and I are fine. We can say hi. There's no bad blood there. It's just, it was the moment, I'm sure. Think front office.
Oh, Chris Klein. Oh, Jovan.
There you go. That's what I got.
It took me 4 guesses. Okay.
It took you 4 guesses.
Jovan's...
I have it right back here at technical director. It is right there.
That other round thing you got with the lights, it should go right above that thing over your shoulder, the other corner of the Galaxy logo. It should go right above that.
It should go above that, you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find a good spot for it. We need the COG mouse pads. that is what we need. The overhead cam. That's what they're saying. We need the overhead cam, the one that gets a little spicy on here.
Let's just shoot with drones.
We could shoot it with drones. We could do it. Listen, this is one. All of our listeners are awesome, amazing people. Every time I get to meet people, say hi, they fill me with a purpose. I often tell people this, and I'm sure, Kevin, you sort of get in the same spot. Sometimes on Mondays, I really don't want to do this show, right? Especially Mondays. Mondays are a hard day anyway, and then it's like, oh, well, you got to do a show again, too? Okay, great. So I do it. But once the music starts, I usually get into this a lot, and it's reminds me of just that the people that we are around on a regular basis. Our listeners are the ones who the Monday show's for the listeners. The Thursday show is for me. The Monday show is for the listeners.
Well, I'm on my deathbed, which is why I'll be drinking a lot. But yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Watch, I'm going to go to the 2-cam.
Oh wow, the side view. Yeah. Wonderful.
I'm back. Is that good?
Yeah, we're good. We're
2-cam.
Good. 2-cam, right back to toucan, a bird. So anyway, so the Galaxy ruined it because we had churros. Now, I don't know if the people out in the stadium got great churros. I will say that mine were above expectations. Tom Braun came up beforehand and said, hey, you guys are going to get churros. He goes, I want your honest opinion. And so, Tom, here's my honest opinion. Those were more than adequate as far as I'm concerned. Now, ours were missing sugar in the press box. There was no sugar on top of them. I don't know. That was an oversight. That was a little fumble there. But the churros themselves were good. Damien complained. I just want to say that Damien complained about them. He's like, they were delicious. I thought they were really good. I could have had 4 or 5 more of them, but we did get churros. I thought they were good. He also mentioned that perhaps there was a churro toss at some point in the stadium where they were tossing out churros, and you can't do that with bad churros because you could poke somebody's eye out. They needed to be soft enough.
You could get a concussion. I mean, some of those like relay batons. By the way, you mentioned Toucan. Remember Toucan Sam? That guy should have had a longer career. Everybody loved him. Colorful, personable.
It's certainly one of them. So I thought it was a good night. Everything was going really well. The LA Galaxy scored first, which is something they haven't done in
first time this year.
First time they had a lead in the game in league play. Remember in Herediano they scored first, so technically in Concacaf Champions Cup they had a lead before, but never in league play had they scored first and had a lead.
And who scored?
It was Christian Ramirez again.
How many games in a row has he scored?
4 games in a row for Christian Ramirez. So this one ends 2-1 basically, right? We all know what the final score is here. Just absolutely deflating the way that it happens. We can talk about all those fun things, but looking at what started out so promising, and again, unfortunately for Greg Vanney, I got to talk to him again today. And so that was for Concacaf Champions Cup, which is tomorrow night. So match day -1 on Concacaf Champions Cup is press day. So we got to talk to Greg again, got to talk to Maya. I feel like it was way too close. Like we just talked to those guys. So it was a lot of talking as normally happens. But, Greg was again, he was like, I'm not as I asked him if there was frustration today. I asked him, I said, is there, do you have to guard against sort of frustration? And he said, I actually talked about it with the guys. I said, we're allowed to have this emotional reaction to this game where we get upset and we're angry and we're frustrated and we had that game and we let it go. Right. And we can't do that. And so we're allowed to have that frustration reaction. He goes, but now it's about the process, get back into it, train, and put a good result out. Mayo talked about how this is sort of a palate cleanser. I think Rob, Jalen said, Mayo, is this a palate cleanser? Can you sort of wash this away a little bit because it's CONCACAF Champions Cup. There is no standings in CONCACAF Champions Cup. You just got to beat this team in this next round. You don't have to worry about how many wins you have, how many losses you have. There's no points. None of that matters right now. It's 0-0 in a 180-minute game, and you have the first leg at home against Tigres. And so they were sort of talking about how that could be it. But it has to be frustrating knowing that they played well. Possibly one of their best, 45, 50, 60 minutes. Tucker Lepley, amazing performance for him. Whenever he came out, I thought the Galaxy lost a little bit of something. But looking at the starting lineup with Ramirez in there, with Fagundes, Gabriel Peck, Cerrillo, Parente, Lepley, then you had Aude, Yoshida, Zonka, and Yamane with John McCarthy back in goal. It looked like it was sort of the expected lineup, right? It was one of those.
And Paintsel on the bench.
And Paintsel, yep. And we expected that he would come in, which he did. I said I expected him to get 30 minutes. He got 30 minutes. So he came in. All of this stuff led to, and I know it was a relaxed game because we had our halfway meetup, Kevin, right? I went downstairs, went to go talk to some of our fans that we circle up with at halftime, and everybody was relaxed. Where they were sort of like, yeah, this is finally, yeah. And then Paintsel's going to come on. We expect him to score some goals. There was this optimism. The Galaxy are winning 1-0. There's a lead. Orlando hadn't been dangerous up until that point. You're sort of looking at all these things like all of this stuff is going to go your way. Things are finally lining up for the Galaxy. The progression that we called for, the getting healthy / finally getting results was happening, Kevin. And then in the matter of minutes, poof, it all goes away.
Well, I thought for 60 minutes, the Galaxy looked, certainly for 55, the Galaxy looked like the Galaxy of last year. Now, granted, they didn't have the same players. Okay, Ricky Puig wasn't out there, but I'm just saying they were passing very well. They had a high passing percentage. They had a lot of the ball. They looked to be in control. They looked to be, they were bending Orlando City to their will. They really needed the second goal. And I know there's a lot of things that contributed to that loss, but I'm going to say not getting the second goal when they had a number of chances was a big one, because if it's 2-0, the game's sort of put away and some of this other stuff may not matter. But you're right. I mean, when Tucker Lepley went out and Joseph Paintsel came in, and this is no knock on Joseph Paintsel, I thought he played reasonably well, and I thought there was a lot of chemistry between him and Peck, and that was good. You saw them making long passes to one another right at the start. They picked up right where they left off. But whatever it was that Tucker Lepley brought, he took with him to the bench. And when Joseph Paintsel came in, things just changed. And again, it wasn't Paintsel's fault. I'm not really sure whose fault it was or if it's anyone's fault, but the way the Galaxy played changed when Lepley left.
It was more in the 75th. It was the PK. It was that emotional reaction to that penalty kick. After watching things progress in this game, questionable calls continued throughout the entire 90 minutes. For me, that showed that the Galaxy are fragile. And by the way, there is a want for them, Kevin, at least in my mind. Certainly, there's a want for them to get that goal, to get the win. They're putting a bunch of pressure on themselves. They are overplaying in situations where they feel like they have to score and do some things. I think Fagundes hit one off the post in this game, right? They had the chance for that second goal. There were moments there, and it was looking good. And then if you could have been at the score that you really wanted it to, whenever Paintsel comes on, I think you're really sort of setting yourself up for that good game, as long as nothing crazy happens. We've talked about this Galaxy team being too emotional, right, Kevin? Is this a too emotional LA Galaxy team? They give up the penalty kick, which we will talk about. They give up that penalty kick, and all of a sudden, the reaction to that penalty kick was not good. And then you pair it with a really bad goalkeeping mistake by John McCarthy, and all of a sudden the Galaxy lose that game. It's almost incomprehensible that the LA Galaxy lost that game, seeing how they played through most of that game.
Right, in the second week in a row where John McCarthy's had a really damaging goalkeeper mistake. Remember, be a goldfish, John. But you're right. The one thing that struck me is, I did think the game turned on the penalty kick. I did think the Galaxy, I don't know whether emotional would be the right word, but they were definitely back on their heels. It was almost like they were looking over their shoulder. What is going to happen bad now? And the thing I don't like about that is it happened at home. I get it. If you're playing in a hostile environment like they're going to have next week when they go down to Monterrey to play Tigres, that's going to be a hard place to play. And if the calls start going against you or the fans get in your head or whatever, that snowballs really quickly. But when you're at home, a place where you didn't lose all last season, I know they've lost this season, but a place where you didn't lose at all last season, you got to feel like, hey, this is our place. You don't come in here and do that. Yeah, that was a bad call. So what? we're so much better at home that we're going to overcome that, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I think they also feel the pressure from sort of the offensive drought that the Galaxy have had. I mean, Christian Ramirez, 4 goals in 4 games. Absolutely amazing finish, good build up. Yamane on that right-hand side, good passes. All the things happened the way that they were supposed to in that, and the Galaxy rightfully had their lead, right, against Orlando. We find out after the game that Christian Ramirez tells us that he was celebrating the goal. He knew his dad was watching. His dad had to fly down to Colombia earlier either that day or the day before, was with his grandfather, Christian Ramirez's grandfather. Yeah, Christian's grandfather. And that Christian's grandfather actually passed away during the game. His dad was by his side, but Christian Ramirez scored a goal. Take the movie script away from it and just understand, sort of what Christian had to endure during that game and understanding all the stuff that goes on. He scores, he celebrates knowing that his dad is next to his grandfather. And I don't know if at this point he knows that he's passed yet, but he's sitting next to his grandfather, and he knows that his dad is watching with his grandfather. He knows that they're seeing that. And so the celebration is there. The goal is there. Everything goes right for what Christian Ramirez has, I think we were pretty quick to jump on him a little bit earlier in this season, and I think he wasn't making the runs that we were expecting. I don't think the timing was right. I think there was a lot of things that sort of had to click. For all of that negativity, it's almost all positive right now. Christian's making the right runs. He's combining in the areas he needs to combine, and he's making a difference for an LA Galaxy team that is starving for goals right now.
Well, and that's part of the thing with John McCarthy. I mean, I'm a big John McCarthy fan. I'm not going to apologize for that. Everybody that listened to this knows that. And I'm not going to abandon him yet, but I will say that he made mistakes last year. We just didn't notice them because the Galaxy scored 69 goals. The Galaxy are right now, Christian Ramirez and cross your fingers and hope somebody else finds the back of the net. And it doesn't happen very often. Maybe with Paint still back, that'll change, but you're noticing, the mistake that John McCarthy made this time, it was in a 1-1 game. So that cost them the game. Last year, that's a 4-1 game, maybe.
Let me get
3-2, something.
Yeah, no. I think it is hiding a little bit. I was having a Twitter conversation with somebody, and they said, it seems like the style of play that Greg Vanney, sort of demands that this club plays is very easily punishable by stupid mistakes. Now, listen, if John McCarthy can't catch a ball that goes, there's no amount of tactics that are going to change that particular problem. And I'm with you. John's a great guy. He's a consummate professional. 100% there. But the bottom line is here that, and I know this is a question to you in the chat room, is that there's a problem. There's a problem with the goalkeepers, and maybe there shouldn't have been a problem with the goalkeepers. Sasha Kleshtin was out today talking about it, and they asked about the goalkeeper, and Sasha goes, it's Greg Vanney's fault. He goes, you had a guy who's coming off a MLS Cup win, and, why was there ever a question mark? Or if there was going to be a question mark, then Novak Mitrovic is your number one. It's because it's his time. He's put it in. He's got to be the guy. Then you have to leave him in there to struggle if that's the case, right? And you have to do it. With all the injuries, though, we have talked about the results and what the Galaxy cannot afford to wait to get healthy in order to get the results. Well, they're almost healthy now, and you see the sort of position that they're in. The LA Galaxy have put themselves at bottom of the table position, right? This is not a good look for anybody. Peter Vermees just got fired from Sporting Kansas City. I called it, by the way.
Second coach this year.
Yeah, second coach, because Laurent Courtois was fired from Montreal, right? So Montreal, Sporting Kansas City looking for coaches. I'll tell you what Peter Vermees doesn't have, which is he didn't have an MLS Cup last year. So I wouldn't put Greg Vanney in the same situation as those guys. Plus, I think it's pretty easy to understand the position that the team has put themselves in, just in terms of injuries and then sort of the roster restrictions and everything that they've had to move. All explainable. I can understand that. I still think Greg Vanney is a valuable coach for the LA Galaxy. I don't think he's going anywhere. As a matter of fact, the Galaxy probably need to get him onto a contract extension. The fact that it's not done yet is kind of a little crazy. And maybe it is, and we just haven't heard about it. But last I heard, it wasn't. So looking at those things, did the Galaxy create this goalkeeping problem? And now have they shattered 2 goalkeepers? I tend to believe that John McCarthy is nowhere near shattered just because he's sort of that journeyman goalkeeper who knows how to be in these situations, Kevin. But it does feel like the Galaxy are on more shaky ground right now because of the goalkeeping sort of controversy or decisions. And maybe John McCarthy was also sketchy a little bit last year, too. During the regular season, there were people calling for Mitrovic during the early part of the season, too. So maybe this was just all part of the process working into it, but the Galaxy aren't good enough to sort of hide that.
Well, and what's interesting is Greg was asked about that after the game, and Greg is kind of at the end of his patience. And he said, he he could have discounted. He could have just, John had a tough night. That's the kind of stuff he said last year. He's working through some things. We'll be okay. He'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Instead, he said, I think your question was, is there still a goalkeeper controversy? And he said something to the effect of, I'll let you know. It sure seems that way. We really don't have anyone who's taken that job. Maybe JT gets a shot now. I don't know. You brought him here for a reason. We haven't seen him anywhere. Is he healthy? Can he play? He had injuries last season.
Right.
If he's here and he's healthy and both your top two guys are struggling, why is he here?
Yeah, here is my my question. I basically asked, is the goalkeeper situation still fluid, right? Because I'm trying to find, where do you sort of sit it? And he goes, it could be. It certainly could be if they both want to keep leaving the door open for one another. I hope not. Somebody needs to take ownership of it and be the guy. John did it all of last year, and he's capable, and he needs to bounce back. But we'll see as we move forward. So that was Vanney's response to that after the game. Again, it feels like the Galaxy were a little emotional on the night, and I think there was reasons. Let's get to some super chats because there's a whole bunch of them. Want to get to those, and then we need to go into and talk about some of the
prizes tonight. Are there prizes tonight?
And no prizes tonight. I didn't do one. Everybody's
Arena
just being nice.
Tickets, nothing?
No, nothing. Rupert's pessimism, also known as Lasso's optimism, but on the other side of things, once the Galaxy have gone winless in 6, I think we might have broken Lasso there. But Rupert's pessimism, $10 super chat. Evening, gents. Wow, that was a hard landing Saturday. Bad calls and a mistake at home don't mix, man. Guess there's only one way to go now. Up. Gotta believe. Go G's. So that sounded more optimistic, more Lasso's optimism than that. But we appreciate the super chat there. I got to see Aaron, who won one of our jerseys over the weekend, and he goes, "It was good to see you, irregardless," which is Aaron's favorite word, irregardless of the crappy result. And my profile pic is clean shaven. Told you. Listen, Aaron, I'm telling you, your head is so small in this profile pic. I can see a 5 o'clock shadow, so I expected to see more shadow. That's what I'm saying. So Aaron showed up, and I go, man, I thought you had you had a beard or something in your profile. He thought I was crazy, which I probably am. But no, Aaron was great. He was there, and he got a jersey, so he was happy to get the corner of the Galaxy jersey. So we got that. We have Brizzle, $5 super chat for being a man of the people. Also, hi. I'm supposed to say hi, Sebastian. I am your father, in a Vader voice. So saying hi to Sebastian. Hi, Sebastian, from everybody here at Corner of the Galaxy. Thank you for the super chat. Executive producer Herb is in here as well. Kevin, $29 super chat. Hi, Josh. Hi, Kevin. I may be delusional, but I'm not worried. However, the team does need to start scoring first and stop making childish mistakes. I think making the playoffs is within reach and a whole new ballgame. There's two things that are keeping me from saying that this is unfixable, Kevin. One is that the LA Galaxy won an MLS Cup last year, and maybe that you don't need to worry about how they do this year. You won an MLS Cup last year. Nobody ever takes that out of the trophy cabinet. As the hammer says, you don't take trophies out of the trophy cabinet. So that's one thing. The other thing is I still think do you know how many teams I wrote off last year? I was like, no, they're not going to be any good. Nope, this team, they're done. The whole deal. And you go through it, and then what do you know? They show up in the playoffs, and you're like, I don't want to face them in the playoffs, right? So I feel like there's still plenty of time for the Galaxy to sort of find something there. What, 28 games left now? 27 games, something like that?
Yeah, and I think there's no league. Maybe the NBA is equal. No league, I don't think, sends more teams to the playoffs than MLS.
18 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, out of 30.
Yeah.
So you have a much better chance mathematically of making the playoffs than you do not making the playoffs.
The Galaxy showed that was not always the case, though, haven't they? We have been in those times where it seemed like an impossible mountain to climb. Barry, $13 super chat. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Adam, $10 super chat. Hey guys, who's to blame for the goalkeeping controversy? When will it be a must-win game in MLS League play? Probably before they get eliminated. That's usually whenever must-win games happen. But they were in a position to win against Orlando. I'm not gonna. That was the game for them to win. They didn't win it. That's not anybody's fault but their own there. Certainly, and he goes, why is Ramirez isn't in the game for 90 minutes? He's not going to be a 90-minute player. I don't think he's 90 minutes fit right now. He comes off in the 60th, 70th minute, and he seems gassed. Plus, he comes off in a game where the LA Galaxy are winning. And so this is the perfect spot for Miguel Berry to come in and do the things that Miguel Berry does. $5 super chat from Popozao. As an ASO ref and volunteer, I was deeply offended by this referee this weekend. To be fair, we shouldn't leave it up to the ref for us to get the W, and we're going to dive into that. Gary, $2 super chat. Kevin, this is a good one. Do you have a favorite Hot Pocket flavor? Gary wants to know.
Ooh. Name one, and that would be my favorite one. 'cause that
Pizza.
would be
Pizza's the
Pizza,
only
okay,
correct
there you go.
answer. Is there a better one than pizza?
Hot Pocket.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Brizzle says there's a very happy 11-year-old running in the living room thanks to Josh using the Vader voice. So I did it. I was glad. It was like, Luke, I am your father. Sebastian, I am your father. See, I can do that. I also have a 5-year-old running around who thinks it's hysterical whenever I do that stuff. So,
You tried an English accent earlier, though. That did not work at all.
it goes Scottish every time. That's the problem. It just it morphs Scottish, Irish, then like something that resembles, I don't know, like Hungarian. I'm not even sure. It's just not good. Controversy. We start. So you were lucky enough, Kevin, to be talking to the one and only pool reporter that was on site on Saturday night. So I got to ask 2 pool reporter questions.
And you didn't even drown.
I did not. I stayed dry the whole night. But the first one happens, and this is on the LA Galaxy's goal. Ball goes out to Yamane on the right-hand side. Christian Ramirez coming in and tucking in from that center position, comes across the back line and is adjudged to have been level with the ball. It was. I watched instant replay today. We're showing a screen grab from the clip. I watched instant replay today with Andrew Wiebe. Andrew Wiebe looked at it and basically said, with the way that the lines are going and how they're all sort of slanted in a direction because there is no good look from all available angles. This is as good as you're going to get. And if you look at the line that's underneath Christian Ramirez's foot and look at the shadow that's just to the right of Yamane there as the ball gets played back across. To me, this is, I actually thought it could have been offside whenever I first looked at it. And then whenever I saw the replay, I'm like, if they're giving that a goal, there's no way for them to overturn it. That being said, the referee is actually right in line with the play. You can actually see the flag down by their feet at the very top of the picture. They are also in line with the play, which is funny because they're shifted off to the right because everything's slanted basically to the right, or down to the left as you're looking at it. So looking at this, but I did hear that some of the Orlando reporters were interested in knowing the answer to this. So I did put a pool reporter question in, and here is the pool reporter question. And then of course the response, this is the actual form and what we get back whenever it goes. So I asked in the 14th minute, LA's number 14 scored a goal that looked from replays to be offside. What was the discussion on VAR that led to the goal being counted as good? The decision on the field was that number 17 for LA was onside at the kick point. The VAR checked all available angles, none of which are in line with the ball, and determined that no clear and obvious error was committed on the field. So that was the reason there. From the angle that we have and that we can see, I can see the conclusion there, but it was tight. Now, we go into the 75th minute. Now, before we even get there, let's talk about the consistency of calls in this game, because no matter what, if you look at instant replay or anything else, they're just looking at this one play. But what they're not accounting for is the other calls that were called during this game that didn't go the Galaxy's direction. And the biggest one is Yamane. Yamane got fouled, or it looked like he got fouled in the box, and possibly should have been a penalty kick in the first half. He comes into the box, is going with a ton of speed as the ball sort of bounced around in the box. He picks up the box, touches it forward, and I will say this, he gets taken out. Now, does he pull up his feet in order to lessen the contact? Absolutely. But there is no ball play. There is nothing that is going to happen. There's nothing that's going to get there. No Orlando player is going to get that ball from where he is. And the challenge is a rash and pretty brave challenge for somebody who knows they're never going to get the ball. Yamane makes contact, and Freeman comes screaming down right behind him, immediately issues a yellow card for diving, gets very upset at the mere fact that Miki Yamane would ever even attempt to try to get that ball and quote unquote dive in that scenario. The replay shows that there's contact there. There's very real contact. The fact that VAR didn't pick it up is certainly a good question. Maybe it should have been a pool reporter question. I was trying to figure out all these things. We got horrible replays on the night. Horrible replays in the press box, Kevin. So it was difficult for us to see, and I don't like to just question things just because I'm like, oh, well, that could have been a big, I don't know. You can't see it. So without seeing there was probably a mistake or something like that, I couldn't see it. I've gone back and watched the replays now. I absolutely think Yamane was fouled in that particular case. Was there a lot of contact? No. But here's the thing. Joseph Paintsel got fouled before the penalty kick was given. He was running up the left-hand side. He goes to run up the left-hand side, and somebody comes in front of him, cuts him off, creates contact, Paintsel goes down, and again, Freeman looks at him and says, get up. So clearly, Freeman is saying that he's okay with some contact tonight. That if you're going to try to dive or you're going to try to embellish, that he's not going to give that call. So consistency of calls would be great. Also, just absolutely head-scratching calls all night. I won't tell you who, but there were journalists sitting on either side of me, and we were just looking at each other. I have no idea what just happened there. We'll even talk about the one. Parente gets called for a foul that eventually leads to the goal, where McCarthy misses the ball and the ball goes, he tries to, I don't know if he tried to tap the ball or clear the ball or whatever happens, but McCarthy tried to get the ball. He didn't, it goes in. The foul that Parente got called for, Parente got all ball. The Orlando player jumped up in the air, right? And no chance at getting the ball because Parente had already knocked away from him and then lands on Parente, and it was a foul on Parente. To me, that's not a foul. That's Parente getting the ball and easily winning that. That's it. So these are the things that we have sort of looked at during this game to say, okay, what is the value of contact in this game? And it is certainly that if you embellish any contact, Freeman is not going to give you a foul. So it's shocking to me whenever you look at Atuesta in here when Miki Amane has what I would call minor contact at best. In fact, this is the contact point. I actually froze it at the contact point. You can't really see whether or not there is contact, first of all, I'd like to point out. Atuesta's foot is about to come down. Yamane's foot is sort of in the back there. Yamane is going for the ball, not too far from it, right? Atuesta puts his foot down after the supposed contact that happens, takes a half step from the planted foot, and then pulls up the landing gear, embellishing the contact as it's minimal at best. And this ends up being a penalty kick. It's not consistent with the way the game was called. And so if you want to have pundits on here, Kevin, that say, hey, well, I mean, there is contact. Yeah, there was contact. Maybe. I mean, certainly, that was certainly what Freeman thought, and I can give you his explanation of it after this because we do have the pool reporter. But it's not consistent with how the game was called. Greg Vanney said afterwards, and I think it was correct, Freeman seemed like upset that the Galaxy were quote-unquote diving the whole night. Greg Vanney said, we got knocked down multiple times. Pet got knocked down multiple times. Paintsel got knocked down. Other guys got knocked down. And every time Freeman was like, get up, let's play, right? And I'm fine with that. If you're going to say those aren't fouls, that's fine. Then you can't give a penalty kick to Atuesta in this position for that minimum of contact when he absolutely embellishes the contact afterwards. It is not something that can happen. And I don't know what it is, Kevin, but you have to look at the history here. Freeman, back last year, had a game where it was the LAFC game, LAFC and LA Galaxy, where Bouanga picked up his landing gear well before Yamane ever went to ground, dragged his foot, touched Yamane. It was the biggest dive. Pro had to come out and talk to it, and Freeman was taken to the VAR booth, looked at it, and still called a penalty. That was on Yamane. Yamane, in this game, gets booked for diving on something that was probably a foul, and then gets penalized with the penalty kick in the box. I don't know. It seems crazy to me that one referee would have three major calls in a game against the same player whenever it's inconsistent with the rest of the games that have been played. That's nuts to me.
Well, if you go back to that picture, it actually looks like Yamane's boot is on the ball. It looks like his right foot is on the ball.
It's not. There's separation. If you see the other angle, there's separation there. So he's real close to it, right? The bottom line is that even whenever you slow down on this and play this, you can't really see the actual point of contact. You just know that there is going to be contact there because of how it is. In this particular case, it's almost like Atuesta steps on top of Yamane's foot more than anything. And to me, that's not enough for a penalty kick, right? So I don't understand what is going. The consistency of call is not there for me. That's me. What do you? Any thoughts?
Well, Atuesta was there playing for LAFC when the Bouanga play happened last year, and I'm just wondering if there's a book on Yamane that says, "Hey, you can draw a foul. You can deke him into a bad situation and then flop, and you'll get the call." Whether Atuesta and Bouanga learned something in watching him play, I'm not taking away the fact that the referee got it wrong, but I'm just saying that it's the same, two guys who played for LAFC last year on the same Galaxy player and pretty similar part of the field, almost similar plays, and they were able to draw the penalty when it wasn't there. And I'm just wondering if they know something about the way Yamane plays that makes him susceptible to that.
I don't know. Rupert, by the way, says, and he kept on slowing the game down. Kevin, you know this because you've sat next to me. My number one pet peeve, and Damien and I were talking about it. Andy Dioso was around too, and I was talking about this, is whenever you're getting ready to take a set piece and it's in the box, right? Like it's either a corner kick or it's something from outside the box, and there's always the jockeying for position beforehand and people are pushing each other. Freeman had to blow the whistle before every kick to go in there and tell people to knock it down. Right? Knock it off. Don't touch each other. Slowed the game down. There's a very simple solution to this problem, is that whenever the ball is kicked, you immediately call a foul. If it's a foul on the defensive player, then it's a penalty kick. And if it's a foul on the offense player, as soon as the ball is kicked, just blow the whistle and point the other direction. You can do it all day, every day. Stop slowing the game down. He made, there was a great one where Zonka had to take a free kick. And Freeman was like, no, it has to be over there. He's pointing to a spot that is 2 yards away from where it is. And the ball is back like about 10 yards from the LA Galaxy's box. There's no pressure on anything. He's like, over there. And Zonka's like, are you serious? Like staring at him. Zonka's yelling. And then Freeman had to get up and say something again. Not a single person on that field, including the Orlando side, thought that that was a well-adjudicated game. And that's sort of where I get into the problem of consistency of refereeing. We need to know what to expect. Players need to know. Coaches need to know. What is contact? What is a foul? What is everything else? Here is the question that I posed to the referees and VAR afterwards. I said in the 75th minute, Orlando was awarded a penalty kick for a foul on number 20 Atuesta. There seemed to be, at best, minimal contact. What was the discussion with VAR to not recommend an on-field review? And the response was, number 2 of LA did not play the ball and committed a kicking foul inside the penalty area. The VAR checked all available angles and determined that no clear and obvious error had been committed. The decision on the field was confirmed. I will just take one note of disagreement in that response. The field on the decision was not confirmed. That's basically what he said. They checked all available angles and said that there wasn't a clear and obvious error. There is no clear. Yes, you're right. There was no clear and obvious error, but that decision is far from confirmed. Basically, the decision on the field stood because he checked all available angles and couldn't see that there was a clear angle that showed that there wasn't the contact that Freeman said he was. So not confirmed, but it was the decision on the field stood. So for me, those are the responses. I take the pool reporting thing so seriously. I know people don't really care about this part, but that is one of the most important things. If I wouldn't have been there, there wouldn't have been a pool reporter at that game. That freaks me out. I'm scared that that people are going to have a question and that the pool reporter needs to be there. Happy to ask Orlando questions, happy to ask LA Galaxy questions, whatever it comes to. But I'm glad that we can at least get an answer, even if we don't agree with it. And even if I think that was a poorly adjudicated game from start to finish.
Well, and the penalty changed the game in a number of different ways. First of all, tied the score and let Orlando put Orlando on the front foot and the Galaxy on the back foot. And, I think in that situation, a lot of teams, hey, we're 15 minutes from the whistle. Let's just get the point, get out of here. Orlando did exactly the opposite. They smelled blood in the water, and they attacked.
They did, and the Galaxy were scattered, right? This is the response. Greg Vanney talked about how that they didn't respond well after that penalty kick. Goals change games. Greg Vanney says it all the time. Goals change games. This is what happens. You allow a goal, and all of a sudden emotions go the complete opposite direction, right? You have this high where the Galaxy are finally in a position to win, Kevin. First time in 6 games. Here, we can even go to the chart. First time in 6 games that they score first in league play. All right. And they still can't get a win. They don't even get a draw. The one of the things that I think Greg Vanney talked about after the game, which I thought was really interesting, was just the mistakes. And let me paraphrase, but the mistakes the Galaxy are making, and I'll do it in Greg Vanney's voice, the mistakes we're making cost us points. There's points associated with those mistakes. You look at John McCarthy's mistake against Orlando. That's a 2-point mistake, right? Because the Galaxy could have had 3 points. Maybe they could have had 1 point. Instead, they got 0 points, right? McCarthy's mistake is probably a 1-point mistake, right? The penalty kick is probably a 2-point mistake, right? Those types of things are associated with points. When you make these mistakes, it costs you points. And you can see it. The Galaxy have 2 points on the season right now.
How many goals? They got less than a goal a game, right? They have 6 goals.
Yeah, right now they have 5 goals scored to date. 5 for 12. They're minus 7 in goal differential. They're on pace right now to score less than a goal a game at 28.3 goals. over the 34 game and they are giving up currently 2 goals per game. So 68 goals is what they would be looking at. And the Galaxy allowed only 50 goals last year, which was a 17 goal improvement from 2023.
Well,
right?
And they averaged over 2 goals a game, and they're averaging less than a goal a game now. And again, I'm going to go back and say that not excusing John McCarthy or Novak, but some of those goalkeeper errors don't show up or don't affect or don't even get noticed really if you're blowing other teams out.
Yeah, it is true. But I also say that in the beginning of this, remember, we didn't believe that the LA Galaxy were a good team last year until they got to the playoffs. Right? We were so, I don't know. I know they're in first, but there's still a lot of problems. There's still a lot of things that they're not doing right. And I think that our eyes were telling us that there were still problems. I will say this, and Patrick says, in the chat room, I'd like to point out that our defense looks much improved from last year. They played well on Saturday. I'm optimistic. I don't disagree. Zonka and Yoshida are playing well. Yamane played well. Aude played well. You're looking at just the defensive side of those things. I don't think it's a problem. You go on to FOTMob, and FOTMob really doesn't like the Galaxy in this. Why? Because they gave up a penalty kick goal. So that's your problems with Yamane. Yamane, by the way, still a 7.5. And still gives up a penalty kick in there. That shows you how good he was on the night, by the way. Also created and helped create that goal that scored the other way for Ramirez. Ramirez a 7.7 rating. But look at John McCarthy, 5.1. Why is your 5.1? If you go in and click on it, it says John McCarthy allowed Orlando to score a goal. That's why he's at a 5.1. So you can sort of look at guys who had good nights. I thought Tucker Lepley was much better than his 6.0 showed. He just does a tremendous amount of work. Diego Fagundes at 7.5. Ramirez at 7.7. Gabriel Petic is 6.4. I think that's probably a little harsh for him, but still a pretty good night for him. The best player supposedly on Orlando's side was Atuesta. Why? Because he drew a penalty kick. That was the majority of his ranking. I thought he was good, but he should have gotten a yellow card about 4 fouls before he actually got one. Freeman, for some reason, was just real slow in recognizing the persistent infringement that was happening against the LA Galaxy. But whenever you're calling dives every other one, that's probably a good reason too. So, just looking at the stats and what it is, it's funny because I talk about the G plus stats, right? The goals plus, which we've talked about before. And goals plus didn't like this performance, right? They were like, oh, the Galaxy didn't play well. Well, their major minuses were the goal that McCarthy let in, right? And the penalty kick. You take those away, and this Galaxy performance was one that was in line with, the performances against Minnesota and Portland. So not crazy to say that the Galaxy actually played a pretty good game. I think Greg Vanney is right in his assessment on that. But bottom line is that, thoughts and prayers, feelings don't get you points, right? There's no points on this. We felt really good out there up until this point, but we still lost the game. It doesn't matter. Eventually that has to show up on the scoreboard.
Every coach says all the time, you have to play 90 minutes. And by the way, you talk about what we thought last year. And I thought we were accurate. You looked at that team and that was not a Supporter Shield team, but it was an MLS Cup championship team. And I get that. I get the difference, and they played so well in the playoffs, no one was going to stop them. That could happen again this year, but I just want to say going into the season, and we're only 6 games in, right? I made 2 pretty big errors. I said San Diego was going to be terrible. Wow, they're really good. They fooled me. I still think when I saw them in Coachella, they were terrible.
Yeah,
they're getting results. They may not be Inter Miami just yet, but they're getting results. The other thing is that I did not think Christian Ramirez had this in him. I thought he would be a good player. I thought he'd be a serviceable player. I thought he'd be primarily a bench player, and he may wind up being there when everyone's healthy. But right now, I know the team is winless, so you can't really say he's carrying the team, but he is. I mean, without him, they got what? He has 3 goals in league play, and they only have 5. So without him, the 2 goals in 5 games, that's not good.
No, he's the Galaxy are living and dying by Christian Ramirez right now. He did his job, and he has done his job. It's just this has to get better. This has to get better. We talk about designated players and just what it's going on. Listen, there it is. The first minutes played for Joseph Paintsel, 30 minutes. Greg Vanney, when asked today about Joseph Paintsel and if he made it through all right, Damian Calhoun asked if Joe made it through. And the answer was yes, he made it through. Everything was good. But he also said that he didn't think that Joseph Paintsel got into any real high-speed dynamic positions whenever he was playing first 30 minutes, and that he still wants to see what happens with that. So they're still going to watch minutes on Paintsel. As Greg said, you can't get to 30, you can't get to 90 until you get to 60, and you can't get to 60 until you get to 40, until you get to 30. And so tonight was 30, and then so I think you're going to see the ability to play 45. How quickly that happens and how recovered he is after the game and what he does against Tigres is going to be interesting. Vanney already mentioned today in training or in the press conference that he was going to have to rotate and change some things around, right? He goes, yeah, we're going to have to, because some guys don't recover as fast, and they've been playing a lot of minutes. And then once again, there's a month. Kevin, last month, 7 games. This month, 6 games. So it's not much of a break.
They're starting to wade into some big trees, right? I mean, in some ways, it looked like, based on some of the stuff last year, that maybe the early season schedule was not going to be that tough. And it turned out to be tough because Vancouver's good and San Diego's good. But now Orlando was a playoff team, Minnesota was a playoff team. Now they're getting into teams that we knew were going to be good, right? The schedule coming up gets a little tougher.
Yeah, it does. It feels that way, certainly. The schedule for the LA Galaxy as it comes up right now is Tigres. And listen, Liga MX giants in terms of what Tigres is able to do. I think they're 4th right now in the Clausura. Yeah, they're 4th. And they just lost to America, who's in 1st. So we'll certainly, touch on that. But the schedule that comes up for the Galaxy is Tigres, then away to Real Salt Lake. So that's altitude. Then down to Tigres. That's altitude. So the Galaxy will have to deal with that. Home to Houston. I watched Houston lose yesterday. Who were they playing, Kevin? Who was Houston playing? Why can I not remember who beat them? Anyway, somebody will tell me in the chat room.
They had a problem.
They didn't work. Let's see. And then Austin, away to Austin, right? That's not
nice body clock game there.
10:45 a.m. 10:45. What is going on with this stuff? Do people think that we're just Did you see? I know you probably didn't. You're probably not on this form of TikTok, but Kelly Clarkson was talking about going to their kids' schools and how all of a sudden the events are at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. for kids' schools, and they're like, could we get a little heads up that there's a 10 a.m. performance and that you have to take all day off of work because you have to do all this stuff? It's I remember when I was in school, we would do stuff outside of the Christmas concert, which you had a lot of advance notice for. Those events were in the afternoon, right? So you could go to work, you could do your stuff, and then do it. Did the people think that nobody has anything to do on Saturdays? I got U6 games, the Electric Lightning Dragons down here in Costa Mesa. That's my kids' team, by the way. The ELDs have to play some soccer, and we got a 10:45 a.m. body clock game. I don't know, man. There's some.
I have a feeling Kelly Clarkson could probably go if she wants.
She is the boss.
Issue,
she is the boss. You know how it is, though. The boss always feels guilty whenever they go to that stuff. Or they should, let's put it that way. And then finally, the LA Galaxy hosting Portland at 6 p.m. at the last game. So that's sort of coming up. The RSL game, that's not going to be an easy game, especially on a hard field that it normally is at altitude and all that fun stuff. So certainly something to watch with them. And then they'll head down to Tigres after that. So just a whirlwind for the LA Galaxy and everything that they're trying to do. The Tigres game will be the first of 3 games, or excuse me, the second of 3 matches in 7 days for the LA Galaxy. So
2 of them at altitude. 2
of them at altitude, 2 of them away. 3 away games, 3 home games in April for the LA Galaxy. So
the travel continues.
Keeps going. I'll do the travel one. Here's what it was in March, right? Loss, win, draw, loss. That's your 12,020 miles traveled, 28 hours in the air for the LA Galaxy. That's what it all comes down to. So I am optimistic, Kevin, that this LA Galaxy team is still an okay team. And I nothing in it to me shows me that they're like 2017 bad, except that I can tell you that the LA Galaxy are off to their worst start in their franchise history. Now through 6 games, they have just 2 points. In 2017, by the way, they had 6 points at this point. They had 4 more points.
They were 3 times better.
They were 3 times better. In 2023, the LA Galaxy only had 3 points through 6 games, but right now they only have 2. In 1997, they had 3 points, but right now the Galaxy only have 2. So this is the worst start to the season in LA Galaxy history through 6 games. 100%. Stats don't lie. That's what it is. And so the Galaxy have to figure out a way to do that. Also, longest single season winless streak. The LA Galaxy are now at 6 games. Last year, their longest was 5 games. By the way, there was a lot more draws in those 5 games than they were losses, unlike this year. In 2023, it was 7 games. The LA Galaxy have not had a more than 7-game winless streak, basically since 2021, where it was 9 games. I'm just here to tell you that none of these are good things to emulate. In 2017, they had 10-game winless streak, right? So keep your eye on that, because eventually this frustration grows, and then how do you fix it? That's the real problem, because if this continues, it's like a snowball, Kevin. If it starts rolling down the hill, it's okay. It's not a big deal, right? It's still manageable. It's not a big deal. The snowball is now the size of a Mazda Miata, all right? It's not a semi-truck, but it's a Mazda Miata. You don't want to get in front of that snowball now and try to slow it down, because it's so big. And if you can't slow it down, if you can't stop it, right, then it only gets bigger, and it's going to run you over even faster. So this spiral, this death spiral where you keep spinning, and it could be bad.
And what that death spiral is about, it's about confidence.
Yeah.
When you're playing like the Galaxy played last year, you're down 2-0, 2-1. You know you're going to win. Now, in a situation like the Orlando game, and again, that's kind of what I think Orlando smelled the blood in the water. The Galaxy are looking over their shoulder, and it's like, oh my God, we were in control of this game. Now it's tied, and they're on the front foot. And what's going to happen next? And they start to look for bad things to happen. And that's what you call it. What you're talking about with that snowball effect. The bad juju begins to pick up steam, and teams start expecting things to go wrong. When you're playing that way, when you're playing not to have things go wrong, guess what happens? Things go wrong.
It is. By the way, Debbie, who's one of my favorite optimists, just says that the Galaxy are just getting their losses out of the way, right? They're going to win a whole bunch of games. They're just trying to get them out of the way right now. Shake them out a little bit. They're grouping this year. They're just going to group. They're going to go like on a 20-game undefeated streak to end the season, and they'll finish first in the Supporters Shield. It won't be a problem.
Probably not. But I will say, when you put that chart up there, that was really eye-opening, because you think of 2023. What an incredible last year, and 2017 as well. I mean, it's just, you never want to go through that again. And see, this team is worse than that. It just doesn't feel that way. Those years felt like, like Chivas USA's reserve team was playing those games, and they never had a chance, and they were just terrible, and it didn't fit together, and the coaching was bad, and everything was wrong. And now you look at it, and I'm feeling like, yeah, it's going to turn around. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay.
Right.
And where's that optimism coming from? The numbers say that these guys are just as bad.
I think that's the deal, though. Is we can look at those numbers and say, this isn't 2017. This isn't 2023, right? By the way, I will stand by this. 2023 had an okay roster. There wasn't a roster problem. That was an injury problem. What do you Galaxy have right now? Injuries. Can they get better? Can they get healthier? Can they figure it out? I think they can. The eye test still tells me this isn't a bad team. I watched other games. There aren't teams out there where I'm like, oh, well, they're way better. There hasn't been a game, and I think Greg Vanney is right. He mentioned this, where the Galaxy haven't gotten played off the field in any of these games, right? They have been in every single game that they have played this year. So you can't tell me that there's this huge separation between them and everybody else. Maybe luck is against them. Maybe poor officiating is against them. They also got a break in the Portland game that probably gave them, a draw in a game. So listen, these things iron themselves out, or they're supposed to, but every year there's a team that has more injuries than the other teams. Every year there's a team that has more bad luck than the other teams, right? This happens every single year. The Galaxy could have used up all their bucket of luck last year. It absolutely could have.
But you know what? I never really felt that they got lucky last year. I just thought, we talked about this last week, I just thought they were really good.
They were.
Now, you can argue that maybe they're using up a lot of their bad luck now, and that'll be smooth sailing from then on. The phrase I always hear, and it comes from baseball. I know people hate when I talk about baseball, but the numbers on the back of the baseball card are eventually going to wind up where they're supposed to be. Meaning, if you're a 300 hitter, you're going to hit 300. If you're a 200 hitter, you're going to hit 200. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now.
Right.
And that's the Galaxy are not a team with whatever it is, 5-game, 6-game winless streak. They're just not that team. They're going to wind up where the numbers on the back of the baseball card are supposed to be.
They're not a 0% win percentage team. They're not a 66.7% losing team. They're not a only 33.3% draw or better team.
I do not believe any of those numbers.
Okay, I would tend to agree with you. I'm still in that as well. I don't think it's overt optimism or anything else. It's just I'm watching the game and that's what I'm seeing. So anyway, coming up, LA Galaxy will host Tigres. This is tomorrow night, Tuesday, April 1st. This is 8:15. It is on Fox Sports 2, FS2. So make sure that you check that out. Heads up that the tickets for the game are not included in the non-premium 2025 STM packages. Members may purchase tickets for the game via the offers in the tab in the fan account. Parking gates open at 4:15 p.m. General parking is $30 and preferred parking is $60. The Galaxy Express will not be running for tomorrow's event, and all stadium gates open at 6:45. 5.
And pay attention to that parking, because for the Heredio game, there was no parking fee.
Yeah, Herediano, there was no. Now they're paying now. Well, obviously, clearly, there's going to be a much increased fan at the stadium. So? Yeah, well, I think Tigres is going to draw. Yeah,
really?
I think Tigres will draw. So that's happening. Tigres, like we already talked about, is 4th in Liga MX right now. So they are a very good team in Liga MX. They just lost to America, who's in first place in Liga MX. So 3-0 loss. That was away at America. Maybe they were resting people for the LA Galaxy, knowing how dangerous the LA Galaxy can be. Kevin, right? Sure, maybe.
Or maybe America was resting people for that one-game playoff with LAFC coming up.
We can talk about that, by the way. So anyway, season stats, by the way, looking at the guys who are sort of the big influences as Brunetta in the midfield at a 7.5. Guesman, 7.1 is their goalkeeper. 7.5 at Joaquim at that sort of right back in the back 3. I imagine they're playing a 5-3, so they'll have 5 in the back or 3 in the back, or maybe that'll morph into something else. And then up top, I think it's Goriaran, 7.5. So they have some good players. Greg Vanney talked about it today, Kevin, and was basically saying, he goes, they have good players in every single position. They're technical.
A lot of national team players there.
Yeah, they are technical with the ball. They are technical off the ball. All the things that they do, they're clearly a good team in Liga MX. So for me, an absolute mountain for the LA Galaxy to climb. If they wanted confidence, right? It's like you sort of wanted the bounce back. You wanted the palate cleanser. You want to be able to go out there and do something against Tigres. Nothing will give them more confident if they were able to come out of this first leg with the lead and to keep Tigres off the board in those away goals. That is going to be huge, watching the away goals and everything else.
However,
yes.
If it goes the other way, if they get blown out, then they got to go to Real Salt Lake, knowing they have a trip down to Monterrey. It could get really ugly really fast.
It is a confidence game right now, and it can snowball either way. I am 100% there. Executive producer Herb, $4 super chat says, who starts tomorrow? Marcinkowski, Brady Scott, J-Mac, Mitrovic. Which one of the 4 goalkeepers do you have your money on? I will say, let me just, before you answer, I will tell you what Greg Vanney said about the goalkeeping situation today. He said that eventually he goes, I'm not just making a decision on goalkeeper based on, it was McCarthy was the CONCACAF Champions Cup guy, and then he started playing league, so now it's going to be Mitrovic's time to go into CONCACAF into the CCC. So he's saying he's not necessarily doing that. That's not why he would just switch them out, because that's how it was before, right? Whenever they swap spots. Eventually, he said he has to look at the long-term health of this club and what that means. I don't know. I think that I still think that that you're going to see Mitrovic start in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And if you don't see Mitrovic start in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, red alarm bells for Mitrovic. They're going to have to move somebody and do something. I mean, if Marcinkowski comes in, like there's a whole bunch of question marks, certainly. But I don't think Greg Vanney is very happy with the goalkeeping play. And I think that he's ready to make a decision to go one way or the other. And I honestly think that it's going to be McCarthy over what Mitrovic would offer. But that's something to watch.
Well, I look at that, and I talked to the lovely and intelligent Mrs. Panda after the game the other night, and I said, with John McCarthy making serious errors in the last 2 starts, I feel like you got to put him back out there so he doesn't lose his confidence. He's got to get back out there. You can't sit on the bench and think about that for a week. But having said that, if JT Marcinkowski is healthy, why is he here if he's not playing? You've already said these 2 guys can't do it. This is not a league game. You're realistically, I think at some point Greg Vanney has to be a realist and said, look, we're probably not going deep in CONCACAF Champions Cup. This is kind of it's not a friendly. They're going to play to win. They're going to play hard. He's going to make decisions to win. I'm not saying he's giving up, but it's a chance to say, look, Novak, you're not getting it done. John, you've had some bad games. We're going to put Marcinkowski out there and see if he's healthy again, and see what he can do. And let both of you guys know that neither one of you have won this position.
I was interested because I was listening to Dax McCarty and Bradley Wright Phillips and Sasha Kleshin talk about this, and they're saying, the goalkeeper is like the one position where maybe you don't want to be constantly looking over your shoulder. You just want to have the confidence of the entire staff and say, you're our guy. There's nobody else here. We need you. You need me on that wall. I am that wall. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. That's kind of what. And goalkeepers are an interesting bunch. They always have been. It's a very solitary position. It's more individual than almost any other position outside of striker, really, for any team. I just wonder, do you have to go all in and say, J-Mac, you're the guy. Go out there. Man, we love you so much. This is the best thing I've ever seen. You are the chosen one here. But there's a decision has to be made. I know Greg Vanney is going to get put under the microscope for this because basically the argument I think Alex Ruiz was making on Twitter today was that by not picking a number one, by now switching and going back and forth and doing everything that you have done leading up to this point, you're inviting the criticism. You're putting every mistake under a microscope. I don't know. I also think
Sasha said that too, that by not going in with the number one, and I get that, and that's a good strategy, but Vanney knows the psyche of these guys. I think Novak is much more delicate than J-Mac, but you put the guy out there, I get it. I think that's a good philosophy. That's a good strategy in most cases. But John McCarthy's had a couple of bad games, and you can put some of the blame on Vanney for not starting him at the beginning of the season. You can put some of the blame on Vanney, but I do think you have to send a message, and the message can't be, yeah, you had a couple of rough outings, but you're still our guy. I mean, that's a good message, but maybe the message needs to be, hey, just watch 90 minutes today and watch what the other guy does, and you'll be back in there, on the weekend.
It's just somebody has to grab this position by the horns. It's now.
How about you?
I know I'm not any good. That's the good thing is that I can say that John McCarthy, Novak Micevic, JT Marcinkowski, Brady Scott, and almost any other goalkeeper in the world is a better goalkeeper than me. That is something I can say with absolute confidence. I think that there's a 75% chance I come up with the ball that McCarthy dumped into the back of the net.
Except you're not tall enough. You would have never gotten near it.
What are you
talking about? Under the bar.
I got hops. I
got bad
hops.
Okay.
Yeah. Gilberto, by the way, $2 super chat. Did Pet get a small injury early in the game? So we saw him within the first 30 seconds limping over on the right-hand side and sort of adjusting things. I think he was okay. We think that was okay. Vanney didn't mention anything. We didn't ask specifically about him, mostly because he played the rest of the game. Yeah, he played the rest of the game, so I don't imagine that it's anything. But you can certainly watch that if you want to. The Fanciest Cat, by the way, hold on one second. The Fanciest Cat gave us a $20 super chat as well. And if I remember correctly, the Fanciest Cat is a fellow neighbor of mine in this general area. I don't know exactly where, but down here in the OC near my Costa Mesa abode.
Around.
Yes. That was exactly what needed to be done right there.
Goalkeepers being weird. They're not nearly as weird as goaltenders in hockey. Holy cow. Those people, those are talking about square pegs fitting into round holes. Those guys are completely nuts. Guys like Jonathan Quick and Eddie Belfour, who was a great goalie for a long time, they're great. They're great at what they do, but holy cow, they just do not work in society very well.
Hey, that's sort of how it is. Alexi Lawless once told me that going out with a goalkeeper, like on a night after a game, and you go out with a goalkeeper, is the most fun you'll ever have, and also the most scared you'll ever be. So it was one of those.
I can believe that.
So that's where it is. LA Galaxy and Tigres coming up on Tuesday night. Don't say everybody thinks this game's on Wednesday. Don't show up Wednesday. You'll miss it.
Yeah, I kept telling you it was Wednesday.
You absolutely did. 8:15 p.m. is your start time. It's a late one. Bring your PJs, pay for parking, all those fun stuff. A lot of the stuff is, all of the clubs I think are closed. So no American Express Club, Tunnel Club, Champions Lounge. I think that's all closed. The premium seating, field side seating is closed. So everything is going to be in the stadium. And I would be surprised if there weren't 15 or 16,000 people there tomorrow night.
If everything's closed, what's the point?
There's lots of things that are open inside the stadium and that type of thing. It's just the premium experience is going to do it. Pottermus, by the way, asks, is Marco Royce going to make a guest appearance? And that is a great question.
What's wrong with him? Tell us, Greg Vanney, what's wrong with him?
I don't know.
No? It's a
groin injury?
It's a growing problem.
It's a growing injury. Yeah, that's what, and we're sort of waiting to see what comes back from that. We didn't get an update on him today. The Concacaf Champions Cup press conferences are weird, so don't ask. Anyway, Patrick, a $10 super chat. Tasty plantains fun. Did you have? Is that the plantains that I'm getting whenever Steve over at AFJA builds me up a plate that has those plantains?
Good. They're really
so
good.
Oh,
yeah.
Between the churros and the pupusas, and man, did I tell everybody I didn't know if
cultural stereotype night. the ball.
100%. That's it can be. You know why? You know why that I always said, you know why they're stereotypes is because that's good food. Like the food stereotypes are usually good food, and I have no problem with that. I'll lean into that. If white people like hot dogs, I do like hot dogs. I think they're great. They're great tasting. You know, mac and cheese, I'm all in on that. That's one of those things. So we'll see how it is. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Ravino Matt says, don't forget on Wednesday is the U.S. Open Cup, Ventura County FC at the Track and Field Stadium. So that is also going on.
See, that's what Wednesday. That's what I thought was going on Wednesday.
That's what you. That
was my mistake.
It's going to be fun. So, yeah. So 8:15 on Tuesday. That's whenever the Galaxy take on Tigres. I will just tell you, just from my best guesses, this is such an uphill battle for the LA Galaxy against Tigres. I would not be surprised if this score ends up being 2 or 3-1 for Tigres in this home match. I don't know that the Galaxy match up well. That being said, as we talked about it, if they can get a result, if they can keep the away goals, if they can make this an actual game down in Monterrey whenever they go, Kevin, then there's something there for the Galaxy. That's
a hard place to play. That's a
super hard place to play. They were talking to Greg Vanney and said, with your experience with Toronto down there, and I think eliminating Tigres. By the way, the Galaxy have never played Tigres in an official match. They played them once in like a friendly in 2007. So it's there is no history there, but Greg Vanney with Toronto has history against Tigres and actually knocked Tigres out in the tournament. So this is something from watch. Greg did not want to get ahead of himself. They were asking about going down to Tigres and playing, and he was like, we have to take care of our business at home first. So that's what we're saying. All right.
By the way, speaking of ethnic food, anybody out there that makes Nicaraguan food, hit me up. Some casillos, queso frito, gallo pinto, cacao. Josh, you got to try this stuff.
You're just blatantly just begging for food now. Is that how? That's what I do. That's what I do.
Okay.
I
want to share it with my co-host.
I appreciate you. Thank you for that. So that's where we sit right now. LA Galaxy going against Tigres on a Tuesday night. Then away to Real Salt Lake. We'll have a podcast on Thursday night to get you ready for that Real Salt Lake game on Saturday. Tell you what happened on Monday night. All that stuff gets wrapped up pretty well. Anything else, Kevin? We good?
Yeah, I'm really not worried about the game. I'm just hoping I live to tomorrow night.
That would be good. One thing, can you talk about the FIFA Club World Cup and what is going to be happening?
So apparently it's Leon that was knocked out, correct? And so Club America, which finished second to Leon that year, and then LAFC, I believe, lost to Leon that year, 2023. So those two teams now, allegedly, FIFA has not said whether this is absolutely going to happen.
Right.
But pretty close. But Club America and LAFC will have a one-game playoff to determine who gets Leon's spot in the Club World Cup. Now, here's why I get it. They're saying, look, these are the two teams that lost in 2023.
Right.
None of those players are on the same team anymore.
Right.
Those are completely. It's just the laundry that's the same. And you have a team that won the league that's sitting there in the same geographical area. It's not like travel's bad or market is bad. In the same Mexican-American geographical area where you're going to draw people for that game. The Galaxy's out. Apparently not even considered. Went to the two teams that lost to them. And again, my biggest problem is the Galaxy are the hot team right now, although they're struggling, but they are the reigning champions. And the other two teams are from 2023. Again, go back and look at the rosters. Nobody is still there.
Right. But real quick before we go, because Javier got a $10 super chat in here. Should Greg change up the style of play away from possession? That's an interesting one. I was thinking we talked about it a little bit where we've talked about it where I said that Greg Vanney and the style that he plays is not intro to physics, right? This is advanced physics. This is a 505 class. This is not a 101 class. And so whenever you rely on that possession and when you rely on the ability to create out of that possession, you also are eligible to make mistakes, and the Galaxy get punished for those mistakes. Teams that feel like they don't want to be responsible for that play a counter-attacking side. Javi asks maybe to a counter-attacking style play. I will say this: when you get Joseph Paintsel in, and you get Gabriel Peck in, and you start putting them in positions where they can start running in behind. And I think Greg Vanney said he was disappointed that didn't happen as much in that they weren't prepared. They got out of what they were doing good whenever that penalty kick happened, and they got out of sorts and they tried to force things. They do all the things. But really the game was set up for Joseph Paintsel to come in that second half and be that counterattack and to be the counterattack for Peck. And with only having one guy like Gabriel Peck out there, the counter is easy to defend, but you start running two guys, and we saw a little glimpse of it towards the end of it where I think Paintsel got out running and Peck got out running. with that change, I think the Galaxy get a little more counterattacky with possession still.
Well, I'm going to say Javier is an extremely smart guy because I say that because I was thinking the same thing. And so if I'm thinking it and he's thinking it, he's got to be smart, right? I was thinking the same thing. And here was my thought. On one hand, you coaching 101 is you set your strategy up for the players you have. You don't try to have a guy play as a forward when he's a center back. You play the style that you have. However, with the Galaxy, Greg Vanney does have a very set style of play. This is the one he takes to the barn. He likes this style of play. He's succeeded with it. And I think he's looking at it and saying, look, this is the best style of play. This is the one I like. I'm comfortable with it. I win with this. I want to keep it. And then you argue, well, you don't have the players. Well, we will. These guys are coming back. Paints is already back. Royce is going to be back. Ricky Puig is going to be back eventually. I have the same back line, basically, I had at the end of last season. I'm going to have the same two guys up front. I'm going to have the same number 10. So I think he looks at that and said, look, just let's get through this thing. Get these other guys, Lepley and some of these other guys, comfortable playing this style. If we change the style, then we have a bigger problem when we're back at full strength. So I kind of think that he's looking at this and saying, yeah, I know we're going to struggle a little bit in the early part of the season, but it's going to pay off in August, September, October.
I'm going to make everybody feel really good for a second. You want to change in style. The really awesome thing is the Galaxy don't even have to change their style. If you paid no attention in 2024, the LA Galaxy were a much more direct team than everybody gave them credit for. Yes, there was possession in there, but whenever they attacked and whenever they countered and whenever they played through that, they were a very good counterattacking team.
And I would say they played really well for the first 60 minutes. It worked for the first 60 minutes.
It is already built into this team. The bottom line is that you still need another runner, and Joseph Paintsel is that runner. Let him get healthy, let him cook, let him play. We talked about it on Thursday saying, was it fair to expect so much out of Joseph Paintsel just coming back? And it's going to take him a little bit. Let him get into those 60-minute games. Let him get into that 90 minutes where he's finally able to come out there and play for 75, 80 minutes of a game and really put an impact on it, and then watch how this style evolves for the LA Galaxy. The Galaxy and Greg Vanney, people like to just call it possession-based, and you can, but that would be way too one-dimensional. And I think if you watched any of last year, you saw that the Galaxy were not one-dimensional, that they were multi-dimensional and able to counter and able to hold possession. When you can keep the ball away from the other team, it's really hard for them to score, so it's a really good possession style. I like that. But when positions open up, it was Ricky Puig finding people into spaces, it was countering, it was Ricky Puig, it was Joseph Paintsel, it was Gabriel Peck, and what we saw at the end of the Orlando game was something that I think we want to see more of is Diego Fagundes in as the 10 because Joseph Paintsel came in, Diego Fagundes tucked in as the 10 because Tucker Lepley was actually playing more of a 10 role on the night. In a lot of ways, he was more advanced in that. But you saw Diego Fagundes in there, and Greg Vanney even mentioned after the game, he said, we got to see Diego in there, and he goes, I kind of want to see more of that. And so I think that's where you can get into these counterattacking, releasing guys. I think it's there. I think it's already built in. You don't have to switch styles. You can play the same style. You can just add the added dimension of Joseph Paintsel and Gabriel Peck running. That's it. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you guys. Be a Goldfish Galaxy.
All right. If you were looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on all the socials, nobody knows. At KBaxter11. Find him on all the social media there. And then, of course, go to latimes.com. Kings. Let's see. I don't know. What else are you doing? Kings and baseball? NASCAR. That's right. You get to do a lot of things. So pay attention as Kevin watches those Kings who are on flying right now as he goes down that. LATimes.com for all of Kevin's wonderful stuff. If you're looking for me on socials, it's at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those fun places. YouTube, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. All right, that does it. The LA Galaxy take on Tigres coming up on Tuesday night, 8:15. That is an FS2 game. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you're there. If you're not, we will see you at the stadium. All right, for Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.